I got a comment on my blog, www.shawnsjames.blogspot.com, asking me how I knew so much about relationships, even though I have not had a girlfriend in 25 years. And the answer to that is very simple. As a writer, I do a lot of research. And when I'm researching subjects, I'm learning a lot about things. And in addition to my research, I also study people and I listen to them, I watch them interact with each other, and that gives me a sense of understanding about things. In order for me to write nonfiction like your Stop Simpin, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, your Manginas, They Look Like Men, but They Act Like Ladies, and The Misadventures of Captain Save-A-Ho, I come from those two frames of reference. Now, in order for me to write a book like Stop Simpin, that came from over 10 years of research. People don't understand. I have been researching nice guys since about 2003. So I have a wealth of knowledge in the subject of nice guys and simps. This is what people call them in the black community. They call them simps, but in the psychotherapy world, they call them nice guys. And I had been reading about them again since 2003. I read an article on a website called Heartless Bitches International. And on this site, they said why nice guys are losers. And I read that article, and I also read the entire comments section in that article, and it gave me some insight into nice guys and why they are losers. And this is why I can agree with them that they are losers, because basically they pretty much, defined it. Then as I read other articles on the subject, because that wasn't just the only source that I used to confirm this subject. I read numerous articles on the subject of nice guys, and they started, reinforcing the arguments that this female on the Heartless Bitches site presented on nice guys. These guys, they didn't know each other. They didn't even, meet each other, but they were reinforcing and correlating the points that she made about nice guys. And then around 2009, I picked up, Dr. Robert Glover's No More Mr. Nice Guy, which further presented, the concrete evidence I would need to make my book Stop Simpin. This was the book that I used primarily to reinforce the arguments from the Heartless Bitches website and the numerous web articles I read. This book is from the expert in nice guy syndrome and a nice guy paradigm. This book is by a licensed psychotherapist and pretty much is the defining book on nice guys. So that's where I got some of my hard evidence on this nice guy syndrome and the simp paradigm. That's where I got the core of it, and I also reinforced this evidence with other information. Now I watched when I got fired from my job at City College. I spent quite a lot of time on YouTube listening to different YouTubers talking about these simps, these pussy beggars, these manginas, and I correlated it again with all the information that was presented on the Heartless Bitches site and Dr. Glover's No More Mr. Nice Guy. All of them were pretty much making the same statements about them. And when I started, to break things down and correlate them together, that's where I formed, my theories on the simps and the simp paradigm. Now, the big turning point for me was listening to Heavenly Truth One's Identify a Pussy Beggar video. That was a big one for me in coming, to my laying the foundation for my Stop Simpin book. And Mad Voodoo Man, also known as the Iceman, when he started talking about simps. So I came from numerous, frames of reference. So I used those two YouTubers. I used some of their videos, as part of my research. And I also looked at other shows like your Judge Judy, your Judge Joe Brown, and I started seeing the pattern, regarding simps and the simp paradigm. Now, there was one movie that was a core piece, of my theories on simps and the simp paradigm. And that what movie was 1982's The Last American Virgin. This movie is the definitive statement on simps and the simp paradigm. When you watch this movie, you see all of the mistakes that your simps, your nice guys, your manginas, your Captain Save-A-Hos all use and why these approaches all fail. They're all in this movie. This movie pretty much defines it. And that was another core piece of my research. Now, I had watched the Last American Virgin back in 1989, and when I was about 15 years old. And I used to think, oh, this Gary guy is such a nice guy, and this girl, Karen, had burned him. But after I read all those articles, I started to see this film from a different perspective. And when I looked at it from that different perspective, it really reinforced everything that I saw, regarding nice guys. And your nice guy, again, is not nice. And when you look at the Gary character in The Last American Virgin, he's not a very nice guy. Early in the film, they pretty much show you that this guy had an opportunity to approach Karen and talk to Karen and introduce himself, but he doesn't do that. Instead, he fixates on her like a fantasy. And this is something that your nice guys and your simps do. They put women on pedestals, they fixate on them, they create fantasies around them, they create worlds around them. And then, because they do that, they miss out on having an interpersonal relationship with someone, and they miss out. And the whole thing is with the Gary character, we see him and all the mistakes that he makes, and that's and why he misses out. Because what happens is, because he does not take the opportunity that's presented to him, his friend Rick takes the opportunity. He gets involved with Karen, and while he's getting involved with Karen, this guy is sitting here stewing and steaming, and we start to see that in The Last American Virgin, it's not really about sex because you know the Gary character has numerous opportunities to get sex. I mean, he has the Rose, who was Karen's friend, throwing herself at him. He has when he's doing deliveries for pizzas, he has another female, a Hispanic female, who's a nymphomaniac, throwing herself at him, and he doesn't take those opportunities, presented to him for sex. So it wasn't about sex; it was about him getting involved with a woman, and fixating on her and having the social currency and the social status that he would get from having a relationship with her. And that was what I learned from your Last American Virgin. In addition, Last American Virgin shows you all the passive aggressiveness many of these simps have. Because there's a scene where he deflates Karen's moped and then offers her a ride, and that shows you covert contracts and passive aggressiveness. And then in the climax, the Karen character winds up getting pregnant by Rick, and when the Gary character finds out, he then puts his cape on and then goes to play Captain Save-A-Ho. He goes out here, puts the cape on. He goes out and hawks his stereo, hawks his Walkman, takes all of his savings and buys her an abortion. And he's thinking that that's going to be the gateway to a relationship. But the Karen character, after she gets the abortion, while everybody's out there going on in the movie, everybody goes out and goes skiing. He's got her in his grandmother's house, paying for her abortion and trying to take care of her. She then, at the end of it, says, "I value you as a friend," and that would go over the head of many of these nice guys. That she said friend, and friend means you're in the friend zone. You're done. But after that, he goes out and takes the rest of his money, buys this girl a locket, inscribes it to Karen with love, and then, he goes to her birthday party to present it to her as a present. And when he goes in the door, he finds her kissing Rick again. And at the end of the movie, he winds up scurrying out, driving with tears in his eyes. And we're supposed to think, the nice guy got burned. But it wasn't that the nice guy got burned. It was that the nice guy did not, the way he approached things is what led to him winding up in that final fate. Because he did not take advantage of the opportunities in front of him, he wound up, getting played. And the only person who played him was himself, because he tried to call himself coming in to try to fix and caretake things when there was nothing to fix and caretake. He missed his opportunity, and that was the end of it. When people look at that movie, they used to go, "Oh, the nice guy finished last." When I looked at it a while back, I said that the nice guy did himself in because of his approaches, and his approaches are what led to him not being able to have a relationship with any woman, because there were opportunities again in the movie throughout for him to have relationships with women if he wanted them. If he wanted sex, there was Rose, there was the Hispanic woman, and yeah, he wanted the social currency and the social status that Karen represented, because Karen was the attractive female. That's what Gary wanted. But The Last American Virgin was a critical film in my research for Stop Simpin. And another part of my research was looking at another YouTuber. Her name is Deanna Lorraine, and she's a relationship expert that deals with men. And I look at a lot of her videos to get some research for books like Stop Simpin. So I use a variety of sources in order to write a book like a Stop Simpin. And I also come, from personal experience because I have family members who tell me stories, horror stories about their experiences in relationships. Like my mother told me about a family member who went out here paying rent for a female whose daughter, ran up a big credit card bill. Now, if that's not simping, I don't know what is. And this is an old time simp. And another thing that this family member did is he went out here and he co signed for some furniture for another female in the hopes of getting into her house and, having a relationship with her. And what happened to the dude was um, he wound up finding out that she was already seeing another man and he wound up getting kicked out of the home. So I heard horror stories like that, quite a bit. And that also went into the Stop Simping book. And I learned, a lot from my own personal experiences because what a lot of people don't know is that even though I stay away from a lot of these females, it doesn't stop them from approaching me. And I've never had a problem, with females approaching me. Ever since I was about 13, 14 years old, I've had no problem, attracting women to me. So I know I listen, and when the whole thing is when I'm approached by these females, I often sit there, I listen to them, and more importantly, I watch their actions. And when I was a kid, I used to watch their actions. I would watch how some of these females would, step to me and then go over to the neighborhood dope boy. And I would say to myself, this looks like a bad situation for me. And this is one of the reasons why I started to avoid a lot of these females because I said, if she's out here with a neighborhood dope boy and she's talking to me, then eventually she's going to wind up jamming me up in some way, shape, or form. And when I was 16 years old, that's what I started to see. I started to see a lot of these guys winding up either dead or in prison. And because these guys did not have the critical thinking skills to understand, you know, the duplicitous nature of many of these predatory females, they couldn't see what was going on. And I started to see it clearly when I was 16 years old. I started to sit there and go reading the newspaper saying to myself, you know, because there were a lot of homicides back then. And one guy would kill another guy over these females. And I said to myself, one of these guys is dead, the other one is in jail, and this female is out here getting ready to pursue two more suckers. And then another thing I said to myself as I was 16 years old back then was this. I said to myself, instead of these guys going out here to argue and go back and forth with another man because he looked at your woman, why isn't he checking his female? And this is something I said to myself at 16 years old. Because I sat there, I said, these guys getting themselves killed or getting themselves locked up, you know, they didn't understand what was going on, that this female is the common denominator in this whole situation. And these guys, they don't have the backbone or the testicles to go out and check this woman. And, they don't see her as the common denominator that's jamming them up. Because when you're pushing daisies or when you're in a prison cell, guess who's free? And a lot of guys, they could not connect those dots and see that you're dead, you're dead or in prison. She's out here, and while she may pen some love letters to you, or give you a conjugal visit here and there, she's out here free pursuing some relationship with some other guys. Just like in an old Cool G rap song called "Edge of Sanity." That's a song. If you listen to that one, it'll give you some critical thinking skills about relationships because the character in that song, he winds up going out to do a stick up, and he winds up getting locked up, and then at the end of this, towards the end of the song, he finds out that his female, pretty much is having a relationship with his own friend, and that's a big part of the Edge of Sanity song. But many people, they don't understand, what goes into a book like Stop Simpin. I mean, I look at it this way. I mean, I have all these personal experiences. I have all of this knowledge that I have learned, you know, from research, from various sources, personal experiences that I have heard, personal experiences that I've had myself. And the reason why I write books like that is because I want to see men, gain an insight in knowledge, because I see a lot of guys out here, they have no father in their life, they have no male figures in their community, and they have no men to teach them manhood and masculinity, and how to deal with relationships regarding the opposite sex. Because when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, we didn't have that many men, in the community to sit down and talk to us about women. There was a lot of sexual shame, a lot of people embarrassed because their relationships didn't work out, and there was nobody there to sit down and and teach boys how to approach relationships with women, or how to approach healthy relationships with women. There was nobody there to teach, and that was one of the reasons why I came out and wrote the Stop Simpin, the first edition. And I learned more and more as I was writing the Simp trilogy, because I liked Dr. Glover's book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, and it deals with it from a general perspective. But I understood, there are different types of nice guys, there are different types of simps, and each one needs to be addressed differently. And that's one of the reasons why I put together the Simp trilogy, because I know that your basic simp is one way, your mangina is another way, and your Captain Savo is another way. And each of them approach relationships differently. They're different types of nice guys, and they require different approaches. And that's one of the reasons why I broke it into 3 different books, because each one may have things that correlate, approaches and behaviors that are similar, but each one follows a different paradigm. Now, all the paradigms have similar outcomes, but they're very, very different. I mean, that's why I did it in 3 separate books. But each of the books comes, again, from over 10 years of research, various sources, and not sources like licensed psychotherapists, people like those who wrote the articles, and a whole host of professional sources. This is not, when I write books like the Simp Trilogy, it's not like your Steve Harvey who wrote that cartoonish act like a lady, think like a man. Now, when I look at Steve Harvey, I find it sad that people will sit there and call him a relationship expert when, this man has pretty much had 3 divorces and has shown that he is no expert in relationships. Yes, he has a radio show. Yes, he's entertaining. But he doesn't come from, sources like I do. I mean, I'm coming from, several psychotherapists, several real relationship experts, people who deal with dating, people who deal with people on a regular basis, and helping them solve these problems. These are the sources that I come from. I come from, and in many cases, I come from the women themselves, like with the HBI article. And with that article, we have the women themselves telling these simps and nice guys they don't like their approaches. They're telling them that what is wrong. They're telling them what they're doing is wrong. And then you have someone like Dr. Robert Glover, who is also reinforcing the points with his brilliant analysis of nice guys, here with No More Mr. Nice Guy. So I'm coming from numerous frames of reference, and I'm trying to break it down in a way that is simple and easy to read. And the whole point of a book like ebook like a Stop Simpin, or a Manginas, or a Misadventures of Captain Savaho, is to break things down in a simple fashion that any man can understand. And that's one of the reasons why I put the books together. I mean, yes, I have not been in a relationship for 25 years, but I understand, how to deal with these females out here. And as a Christian, I look at it this way. If I know and I don't say anything, then I'm just as bad as any other guy out here. And I figure, since I know better, I need to teach other men so that they can go out and do better, and they can have, successful relationships. I mean, one of the reasons why I stay away from a lot of the women in my area, like the South Bronx, is because I know that quite a few of them are predators, and I don't want to get involved with a predator. Again, when I was 14, 15 years old, I saw many of these females out here with these dope dealers, with these gang members, with these thugs, with these assorted criminals, and I said to myself, if I get involved with this female, chances are I'm either going to wind up in a body bag or a jail cell. So the best thing for me to do, again, is to focus on myself, focus on what I want to do in life, and focus on the goals that I want to pursue. And ever since I have done that, things they haven't been perfect, but they have been productive on many levels for myself. And I look at that and I say to myself, that's the best, that was the best solution for me. And I believe that's the best solution for a lot of guys out here. They need to focus on themselves, putting themselves first, taking care of their needs, taking care of themselves, making sure that they're healthy. Because what I see with a lot of these guys out here who follow this simp paradigm is that they're willing to sacrifice everything just for a relationship or a sexual encounter, including their intangibles of manhood, including their dignity, their self respect, their self worth, and they're willing to throw that all away for a female who just doesn't care about them and will pretty much use them for a tool. But that's how I do things. I mean, when I wrote these books, again, you don't need to have been in a relationship to write a book. I mean, basically, your Steve Harvey pretty much proves that point. But when you can come from frames of reference like research from a professional licensed psychotherapist, numerous relationship experts, people who have had personal experiences, and the personal experiences of family, and my own personal experiences, I believe I have come up with one of the most objective books on the subject of nice guys and simps. And basically, I believe that I have broken it down in a simple and easy to read fashion that anyone can use to improve their quality of life and take their life to the next level. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.